Hey guys, this is Rob with MotoEndurance.net. Just wanted to show you 4 specific exercises that I want you to just incorporate into every workout, either post-motocross or post-cross training. Concept 2 rower, road bikes, swimming, whatever you're doing for cross training, okay? The 4 muscle groups we're going to talk about today are going to be the quadriceps, the hamstrings, inner and outer thigh, and calf muscles. Before we go into the stretches, let's talk about that. One of the biggest challenges that you guys have from your riding coaches is they want that foot up nice and high by the fender, okay? Well, if your quadriceps and or your hamstrings are limiting your range of motion, you're not going to be able to get that leg up by the fender. You're not going to get the inner thigh up against the radiator shroud. The lower center of gravity isn't going to happen, and it's going to adversely affect your cornering speed. Right? I know it sounds silly to think that your cornering speed is going to get improved by improving your flexibility, but I promise you it will work, okay? When we talk about inner and outer thighs, when you guys come into the corner, third gear tapped, and you need to make that redirection, okay? And let's assume that it's a real tight, deep corner, all right? How many times have you dabbed your foot and that boot gets pulled outside, gets pulled laterally, okay? Well, if the deep lateral rotators of the hip or the adductors in the inner thigh, if the range of motion is limited and it gets yanked out, that's why you're seeing so many injuries up in the hip now, because you guys are wearing knee braces. It used to be that riders had torn up knees all the time because the boot would snag. It would shred either the ACL or the MCL in the knee. All right. Well, now you guys have these big braces that are attached to your tib and fib and your quad, the femur bone. So what's happening is the inertia is just moving north. If you don't work on the flexibility of your hip, you're going to have problems. Okay. The third area that we're going to work on, or excuse me, the fourth area we're going to work on is calves. Okay. Even though your boot takes the majority of the impact, think about what most good riding coaches will tell you. You need to be riding on the balls of your feet. When you guys go through the whoop section, third gear tap, you're riding on your toes. Very rarely are you up in the arch of your boot. So if you don't have flexible calves, even though they're in the very expensive boots and there's a lot of buckles and a lot of support, you're still using your calves more than you realize. Okay? So please, I want you to always understand the application of the motorcycle before you run off and try to be Gumby. All right? It doesn't help you unless you can translate it to the motorcycle. Now, if you'll take the time to do this, this is going to move your program one step ahead of your competition, because if they're hurt, you're already going to be faster than them. All right? Let's go through the stretches. The first thing I want you to work on is quadricep. The first thing you need to focus on is that you'll notice that I keep my knees pointing straight down and my pelvis is in what we call a neutral position. Okay? You'll notice that my heel is not pulled up against my bottom. All right? Squeezing your heel up against your bottom is going to just put a lot more duress on your knees. And again, your knees already take a lot of abuse in this sport. What I want you to think about is my knee is pointing straight down, my pelvis is in a neutral position, my foot is away from my bottom. Now, once that starts to relax, you're going to hold each stretch for 3 to 5 seconds, as it says in your training schedule. Then what you're going to do is you're going to just tilt your pelvis away from you and deepen the stretch. You have 4 muscles in the front of the leg, hence the word quadricep. And when you do that, you engage all 4 muscles. Remember, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if one of those 4 muscle groups are not getting lengthened, it is a future problem area. Okay? So when you're doing your stretching of your quads, the knee is down, the gap between your heel and your bottom, a slight tilt to deepen the stretch. Hold that for 3 to 5. Switch legs. Try to come through each leg twice. From there, we're going to go into hamstring stretch. What I don't want you doing at home anymore is the one that you were probably taught at school, where you cross one leg over and bend over. All right? The reason for that is the hamstring is designed to stabilize the knee when you stand on one leg. So when you ask it to stabilize, i.e. contract, and then you bend over to try to stretch it, the muscle can't relax and stretch at the same time if it's in a contracted state. All right? So how do we stretch hamstrings effectively for motocrossers? First thing you do is notice that my bottom foot is pointing forward. That keeps my hips in a neutral position. I'm going to take and put that foot up there. Notice that my toe is going to the sky. Notice that my bottom foot is still forward. For some of you guys, getting your leg at 90 degrees in relationship to your torso is going to be a struggle. If that's the case, simply lower it down. There is no perfect range of motion. It's completely individualized, so don't beat yourself up. All right? Your goal ultimately is to get to 90 degrees, because that isn't what we consider an optimum range of motion from a physiology standpoint. The legs at 90 degrees, my toes are straight up, my bottom toe is straight up. I'm simply going to take my chest and I'm going to lean forward. You'll feel a slight pull behind the kneecaps up against your bottom. That's where the hamstrings attach and insert. You're just going to simply lean forward, hold that for 3 to 5 seconds, and then come back up to neutral. Okay? For those of you that are extremely flexible, maybe you came from a gymnastics background or something that flexibility was a big part of your routine, if you can get your chest down to your thigh, then once you're in this position, go ahead and gently pull your toes back. You're going to feel that deepening in the hamstring as well as engaging the calf muscles a little bit. All right? That's how you're going to stretch hamstrings. Now, I'm a big stickler for time. We need to stretch inner and outer thighs. So while you're here, you're still in that position. Your toes are here. What you're going to do is simply drop your toe out. Very important, okay? Very important. Once the toes drop out, it's going to engage the inner, which is the adductor group. You're going to just lean down. All right? Don't worry about pointing your toes forwards or backwards or anything else. Just keep it in neutral position. The foot is rotated out. You're going to drop down. You're going to feel that in the inner. Come up to neutral, then move your foot. Please do not move your foot when you're down here. Come to neutral, takes the pressure off the hamstrings and the adductors. Then you're going to rotate your foot inward. That's going to engage the outer hip. Again, this is a big problem area for you guys. All right. Now that the foot is tilted in, you're going to lean back down. And you're just going to hold that for 3 to 5 seconds. And then you're going to release. Okay? Those muscles in the hip area and the adductors, if you guys want to minimize injuries that take you off the track for 2, 3, and 4 weeks at a time, and I'm not trying to paint a negative picture, but once you strain this hip area, once you strain your groin area, it adversely affects all of your positioning on the bike. You're going to put more weight on one peg than the other, so your center of gravity is off. Your ability to turn, when you preload going off the face of the jump, the bike's going to be off balance a little bit. It's going to start causing other problems, okay? So the last thing I want you to do is you've got a hip problem, you go to clear a double or a triple, and because you're off balance, you wad yourself up and break your collarbone. If you come into a corner and you go to position and you're favoring a side that's already bothering you, you're already putting the wrong pressure on the pegs, all right? Let's say that your right leg is hurt and you're coming into a right-hander, or excuse me, let's say your left side is hurt and you're coming into a right-hander, you know you're supposed to put weight on that outer peg. But your hip is in spasm, you don't press with enough, you don't make the corner. So what happens? You have the 5-minute fall. You come into the right-hander, the bike tips over the other side, you put your hand out, you break your forearm. You break your shoulder. You break your collarbone. And it wasn't a high-speed get-off. It's simply because your hip was hurting, you didn't make the turn, you tipped over, you put your hand out, you broke something. Okay? So look at stretching as a huge investment in injury prevention, which is going to increase your speed on the track as well as increase your longevity. The last stretch that we have is calves. It's very simple. You're just going to get your toe up in the air, and what you're going to do is just lean down, and you're going to feel all the muscles in the back and the front of the leg. Tibialis anterior, soleus, and gastrocs in the back. You're just going to pull those toes up towards yourself, and then you're just going to relax it. You're going to bring it back up, feel the pull, and relax it, okay? The reason why I don't want you doing a lot of heavy load on your calves is it's an easy muscle group for you to put too much body weight and too much momentum and actually end up tearing your calf muscle. So I want you to be very careful with that, okay? So those are the 4 major muscle groups of the leg that we work on. The front of the leg, quads, the back of the leg, hamstrings, inner and outer thighs, which is abductor, adductor, and the lower extremities, which is going to be calves. If you'll focus on just those 4 muscle groups, that in itself is going to move your program ahead 50-60%. Make sure you check out our second round of stretches, which is going to be for the lower back and up into the shoulder area. Again, another area that you guys struggle with because of the nature of the motorcycle, pushing and pulling you. And we hope that these will help keep you on the track longer, racing faster. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can email me, Robb, R-O-B-B, number 3, @earthlink.net.